Hey people, it's Larry again. Just making a quick little video here of some tips and tricks for people on these V-towers, because I'm actually getting so many emails that I can't keep up. Wow, hey, nice focus job with this camera. Anywho, yeah, I'm just... You'd think I'm a doctor or something. No, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on YouTube. Just kidding. Anywho, I'm getting a lot of questions by email rather than people actually posting comments on videos, and it's just getting a little overwhelming, too much for me to reply to every one of them. First thing I'm going to address here is the cutting of the body of these towers. People are asking how you cut these without the body collapsing on you. It's actually really easy. If you remember from the previous video on the construction in my rant, I laid a bubble level down the side of the pipe after I cut it, 42 inches long, and I traced down the sides of the bubble level. Now, I used a jigsaw. Like I said, I used a jigsaw to cut these, and what I did is I would start on one end, like on this line, and I would cut all the way down here, except for I would only stop right there, about an inch from the end. And then I would take my saw and go over to the other side and do the same thing, and then cut actually all the way through here. Now if you do that, the body will not collapse on you. It won't wrap up and pinch your blade. So after you cut that last side off there, you can go back to the other end, cut that remaining inch out, and what do you know, there you got the slot cut in your tower. That's all there is to it. Like I said, do not try to use a table saw. A friend of mine tried making these, and his idea was to use a table saw, and it caught up in there and it flipped the entire tower over his shoulder. If it would have hit him in the face, it probably wouldn't have been very pretty. So do it the easy way. Don't try to overly complicate things and think you can whip a whole bunch of these out in no time flat by using a table saw, because really it's going to be counterproductive. Use a jigsaw and just make sure you cut down one line, don't cut all the way through, then come back, do that, and then you go grab your last little end there. So that's that for that part. The cutting of the Metalla media. You can cut this any way you want. Some people have told me that it's easy for them to cut with an electric carving knife, like what you'd use for carving your turkey on Thanksgiving. This I did use a table saw on, and I used a blade for cutting paneling, something with very small teeth, and I was able to just zip through sheets of this stuff and cut the strips of media out in no time flat. It is kind of messy, but if you use a table saw, you can guarantee that you're going to get these as close to 3 inches as possible, and it's not going to take you any time at all to do that. What else? The hangers. People were asking what the hangers were. These are nothing, and you can tell by looking at the rusted ends. I just made these out of galvanized baling wire, but as you can see by the rust on there, the zinc plating does wear off, but a little bit of rust isn't going to hurt anything. It's not going to poison your fish, or you'd have to have a whole lot in there to actually poison your fish. If you're one of those tree huggers that's all concerned about that, then all I can suggest is come up with something else. But that's what I use. I haven't killed myself or anybody else yet, so I think it's safe. As for the caps, where I drilled the hole in the middle, no, it is not necessary to have a 3/4 inch hole there. I do that just so I don't have to fight to get the water line in the top. You could make it a 1/4 inch hole, but like I said, you're going to fight a little bit to get the tube in the hole and then down in between the strips of media. So do whatever you want there. I just did the 3/4 inch hole because it was easier. What else? The media, or the wicking strip that I use in here. As you can see from these two boxes over here, I use nothing more than sterile gauze for the wicking strip. Some people say you need it, some people say you don't. It depends on how you're going to plant your towers. In my case, you know, granted, I said in a previous video that I used a cigarette roller and newspaper and sphagnum peat moss to make little micro planters or starters. And you know, no matter what you do when you're transplanting seedlings into these, and it goes the same for the zip grow towers, your plants are going to have transplant shock. What's easiest is if you cut these strips of gauze, and I leave 1.5 inches from each end like that, as you can see. Put those in there, get your other strip of media, set it on top, put it back in your tower. And I don't have the apparatus out here, I have them in my basement under grow lights. But you put your media back in your tower, and you lay the tower in a rain gutter, a plastic rain gutter, same thing that Bright Agritech uses to drain their zip grow towers and return the water to their sump. But you use a strip. I made just one's 4 feet long, so these fit in there perfectly fine. But you put your media back in here, lay this in the rain gutter that has water from aquaponic system or fish tank, whatever, flowing through it up to about halfway, and you directly seed. You just plant your seeds directly into this wicking strip. And when your plants get up about 2 or 3 inches or have their first set of leaves, it's safe to bring that tower out here and hang it up, and you end up with that eventually. Granted, they make it look nice and easy with the zip grow towers, and it's, I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting to the plants sagging and then having to bend their way back up to the light, because they end up with a freaky weird curve in them, as you can see. I don't know, these grow lights out here are so freaking bright my camera won't focus. But as the plants come out of that little phase, they get a little sway back in them. May not harm anything, but I don't like it, and I found that things grow better, like with these Thai basil. These were directly seeded in there using that little planter or starter system that I have downstairs. It works better. Same way with this one. This is just the sweet basil. You notice there's no sway back in that little the stalk where it goes inside of the tower. So I think that's about all I have. I'll probably go back inside and read my YouTube email again and find more questions that I didn't answer. Oh yeah, a guy wanted to see what these fittings were. These are, if you've ever seen Sharkbite connectors, that's what these are very similar to, going into my overhead reservoir. Those holes were drilled and tapped, with a tap and die kit, and those little fittings were threaded in there. And then this is 1/4 inch drip irrigation line. They just push in. Okay, will the camera focus again? Probably not. Anywho, they push in, and you pull it back out a little ways, and it locks them in place. It seals. Oh boy, that camera does not work well. It hates these grow lights. What else? Oh, there was one other thing. I don't know if I can get a view of it from here. In my sump, a guy was asking, do I use any filtering? And technically, yes, I do, but it's not much of a filter. That's nothing more than a 5-gallon bucket just filled full of polyester batting, and there is a freaking shitload of red wiggler composter worms. As you can see, there's goldfish down there. They think it's like a buffet. They're waiting for worms to come to those little holes so they can get a meal. But what happens is the water comes out of my system, out of the fish tank and the return line from my towers. It hits 2 strips of metallic media sitting on top to break up any solid waste in there into smaller pieces, and it lands in the polyester batting, which has a bunch of worms. The worms digest it, so that way my little tubes up here that feed the water into my towers, they don't plug up, because the worms down there in that bucket chew up the solid waste, and it comes back here, and what do you know, it's fertilizer and it doesn't plug anything up. So anywho, I think that's about it. And please, people, if you have questions, please post them as comments so I can answer them in the comments and other people can read them, and everybody benefits that way. If you do things by private messages on YouTube, you're the only one that reaps the benefit of the answer to your question. So I'm not saying don't email me again, but if you have questions like that, please post them as comments so everybody can benefit. So that's all. Have a good one. Talk to you later.